Welcome everyone, my name is Bill Watanabe. That's a very good group from Little Tokyo, LA. I want to welcome you, thank you for coming on behalf of the Board of Directors. It's great to see all of you here and the excitement and energy that I could see here in this room this morning. I want to give you kind of a 15-year or so history of APIAHiP and do it in about 4 minutes. So we'll listen carefully. We're going to run through this very quickly. I went to a National Trust for Historic Preservation conference in Louisville about 2006, and out of about 1,000 people at that conference, and I'm not exaggerating, I don't think, I could count the number of Asians on one hand. And they were from Guam, from Hawaii, and a couple from LA. And I thought, where are all the Asian Americans? I know they're doing some historic preservation work, but they weren't at the National Trust, which in my opinion is one of the best historic preservation conferences around because of the quality of their speakers and workshops. So I happened to bump into the CEO at the time, Richard Moe, and I mentioned to him, let's start an Asian American caucus at the National Trust. And he right away said, okay, go ahead and do that. Why don't you work with the Western Regional Office in San Francisco? And so we worked with people like MRG and Hugh Rowland and Tanya Bowers. And so we got together and put on our first forum in San Francisco in 2010. And we had over 100 people who came out to that, which is a lot bigger than the 5 people I saw at Louisville. And we thought, okay, so there is a number of people who are doing this work and now learning and growing it, and this is a chance for them to come together. So we met in 2010 in LA in 2012. We went to DC, which was a big step for us, to go all the way to DC in 2014. Then we met in 2016 in Stockton, California, which would also be a step in the friendly rural community there. We met again in San Francisco in 2018, and then we took another big step to meet in Honolulu in 2020, just before COVID struck us out. We were going to meet in Lowell, Massachusetts in 2022, thinking that COVID would be done by then, but it wasn't. So we had to postpone that. And so that will be on our calendar for sometime in the future to get together with the folks in Lowell, Massachusetts. So here we are in 2024 in Seattle, and we've been meaning to try to get here for a long time, so it's great that we can actually do some. Now, through all the time, ever since 2012, we were led by, and we were actually carried by, on her shoulders, Dr. Michelle Mafalo, and the board of directors. Michelle was indefatigable. She just carried our organization as a volunteer through all that time. And Michelle, do I know what to do? Last year, we received a very generous grant from the Mellon Foundation, which allowed us to hire our first staff. I think the board made a very good choice in hiring Pham to be our executive director. He's dynamic, got a lot of energy, and for me that means that the future of APIAHiP, which is not only concerned about the past and the present, but we also want to move ahead into the future, is in good hands. And so I'm going to turn it over now to Pham.
Thank you, Bill, for your words today and your vision more than 17 years ago. My name is Pham. I'm the Executive Director of APIAHiP. I'm based here in Seattle, right outside of Little Saigon. I'm eager to welcome you all to what I now am able to call my home city and our APIAHiP national headquarters. I'd like to thank our team of sponsors, partners, planning committee members, the board of directors, and our small staff of 3 for making it this morning and the rest of this week possible. So if you see them around, please thank all of them. In solidarity with the thoughtful words of our partners at For Culture, with gratitude, we gather here on the ancestral and unceded lands and waters of Lushootseed-speaking peoples, especially of the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, Puyallup, Snoqualmie, Suquamish, and Tulalip tribes, as well as those names we do not know. Today, many indigenous peoples live and thrive here. More specifically, I also want to welcome you to the Chinatown International District, including Japantown, Little Saigon, and Filipino Town, or as our host partner, the Wing Luke Museum describes, the only area in the continental United States where Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, African Americans, and Vietnamese settled together to build one neighborhood. Yeah. I'm also pleased to announce that the City of Seattle Mayor's Office just signed this proclamation yesterday. The City of Seattle celebrates the rich diversity of our history made up of communities that provide significant cultural, social, and economic contributions to Seattle. The 2024 National Asian and Pacific Islander American Historic Preservation Forum, hosted by APIAHiP, will convene in Seattle, bringing together leaders, scholars, and advocates from across the country to share knowledge, foster collaborations, and advance the preservation of APIA historic and cultural sites. The forum is a critical opportunity to celebrate the heritage of APIA communities while addressing the urgent need to protect and preserve places like the Chinatown International District, which faces challenges from urban development, gentrification, and other pressures that threaten its historical integrity and cultural identity. The City of Seattle supports the preservation of the CID and welcomes the National APIAHiP Forum, recognizing the importance to protect those places as not only the preservation of the past, but an investment in the future, upholding Seattle's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion by safeguarding the spaces that define our shared history and identity. Therefore, Bruce Harrell, Mayor of Seattle, do hereby proclaim September 12 through 15, 2024 to be Asian and Pacific Islander American Historic Preservation Forum Day. Next, I'd like to welcome Dr. Allyson Brooks, the State Historic Preservation Officer from the Washington Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, who I have not only had the benefit of her support throughout my preservation work here in the Evergreen State, but to also see firsthand the results of backing projects and initiatives that shine a light on Asian and Pacific Islander American historic sites and cultural resources, which you'll hear throughout this week. So please welcome Dr. Allyson Brooks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Allyson Brooks, and I am the Washington State Historic Preservation Officer and the Director of the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. So for those of you in Washington State, I am your State Historic Preservation Officer. Somebody asked me today, well, what do you do? And I said, well, when things happen, like the light rail station is proposed in the middle of the International District, I get to say things like, over my dead body. Representative Santos. Okay. Representative Santos has been an incredible partner. I'll talk about her in a minute. So I want to first of all thank all of you, because you do the hard work in historic preservation, and I'm going to talk for probably more than 6 minutes that he gave me about why the work we do is so important and how hard our work is. So I want to start this morning in Singapore. 1941, Ford builds an automobile factory. beautiful, if you ever get a chance to see it, beautiful Art Deco building. In 1942, the Japanese come in to Singapore and the British surrender. And the surrender happens in this Art Deco port. The British leave, and then obviously the World War II ends. The Japanese actually use the Ford factory as their headquarters. And eventually it goes back to the Museum, Manila. In the early 2000s, Singapore looks at this building, and instead of saying, let's take it down and make housing or something, they turn it into a museum. That my brother, who lives in Singapore, called it the Museum of the Surrender. He lives right around the corner. He goes, you got what's insane here. So we go to this beautiful Ford factory, and I'm going to give credit to Singapore. Instead of turning it down, they turned it into the history of what happened to Singapore during World War II. This museum is amazing. It shows the room or the surrender happened, and I will tell you, Singapore gave this story to you completely unvarnished. I walked through, it was like going to a Holocaust museum where you walk through and your stomach turns, you're like, I can't believe people do this to each other. If you ever go to Singapore, you should go to the Old Art Factory Museum because it's an incredible museum. But I want to come back now. So first of all, the importance of historic preservation right there in Singapore is because you have to live the experience in the place where it happened. So let's come back to the United States, to the Japanese-American experience on the West Coast during World War II. And the importance of what you all do is you make people experience what happened to the Japanese-American community right here. So you can go to Bainbridge Island and stand on the Eagle Ferry dock where the first wave of Bainbridge Island Japanese-Americans were taken from their property and taken to internment camps. The reason this is so important is because for those people that don't know the story, they go and they feel what it was like. They even have to look at the water. It's no longer words on a flat panel. It's a feeling now. And that's what the difference is between when we teach with places versus when we teach with just words. The other thing that Seattle did beautifully is if you go to the Panama Hotel around the corner, the luggage is still there from Japanese families who thought they were coming back to get their belongings. You can see it, it's still there. If that doesn't break your heart, I don't even know what is. Again, that's historic preservation, that's what you do. You save those places so that people have to feel what it was like when you were treated so badly, when communities were treated so badly. And even in the eastern part of the state, if you get a chance, we have Hanford, where the first nuclear reactor was built, and also the B reactor turned into a museum. The workers at the B reactor, they thought they were just doing something if the war ended. They had no idea that they were making the plutonium for the atom bomb until the newspapers the morning after the bomb went off came out in the headlines, and all those Hanford workers realized what they had done, what they had been working on. That too is a place where you go and experience what happened. The other thing I want to remind you while you're here is to think about covenants and what happened to Seattle when the International District and the Central District, and you'll be able to tour. Again, a tangible representation that we work on as a community to save these places. For those of you who don't know, Seattle had 44,000 or more covenants. And these covenants for these houses said things like, you could not live, that house could not be sold to a Hebrew, which was Jewish, Black, or Asian. With the caveat for the Asian community, that if a person was a servant for someone else, then they could live there. So you read these covenants and you just go, I just can't believe, people really think like this? Well, yes, they do. So you can take a tour of the Central District and see the communities that were pushed into certain neighborhoods with buildings that are still there. And you see where the Jewish community was pushed into the Central District, Zabersh, the synagogue there today, the largest Reformed synagogue, Central District. You can see the commerce that was done. We have the Talbot Temple that started off as a Sephardic Jewish synagogue. For those of you that don't know, those are the Spanish Jews, and then became a black church. So you can see the rolling waves of people that came through. But those covenants created these very distinct neighborhoods. And it's important to remember that. Now, the reason I love working with Representative Santos is because she understands along with me that the push for affordable housing, which is now the euphemism for take everything down, means that we're gonna lose our history. And let me tell you how many times I have to remind people that I want you all to remember, affordable housing is not low-income housing. That euphemism, that is used interchangeably all the time, and it's annoying, right? I don't think I can afford affordable housing in Seattle. I heard today the median income for Seattle is $250,000. Who can all make that? I'm not. But it's so, the fight is on, because the other thing, and Nick Van, who used to be my deputy, elected for a better job, thanks to he knows full well that we have created thousands of housing units in Seattle that are affordable and low-income housing from our historic buildings. So to say we're in the way is simply wrong. And now I'm going to add one more ugly piece to this. We not only have to fight internally, we externally, we have to fight internally. So as Representative Santos that I'll let you speak, please, I'll in a second. One of the views of our partnership is we recognize that one of our most difficult customers are land use and transportation planners. They're the ones that tend to just decide to build things without stopping to identify what's there. And our job as a state historic preservation officer and the neighborhood groups here and the activist groups here, our job is to remind transportation and land use planners, no, you can't take that down. That is important, that's significant, that's our story, we'll leave it alone. The problem we're facing now, especially with Congress, is environmental streamlining. And even yesterday, the head of the most important federal agency for historic preservation called us in preservation a bunch of racists. Oh yeah, all 50 of us were like, you just call me what? And yet it's better. She accused us of making children walk to the bus stop in the rain, which I immediately raised my hand and I said, but if you're in Seattle, doesn't matter what your income level is. In the rain. You can imagine how well that went over. But, yeah. And another of my favorites from yesterday. Amtrak doesn't like what we do in preservation. We're stopping their projects. You go to King Street Station? Anybody go to King Street Station? You need to go to King Street Station. A $55 million rehabilitation project for Amtrak. Now come and tell me, Amtrak, that you don't like what we do. And we just spent $55 million on you. In fact, I'm gonna go find their government relations person. We need to do that together. I'm gonna call them out. And Union Station out here, do you think they got you a tax credit? So the reason I'm telling you this is really to say, and I may do the overnight dead body work, but you, all of you here do the real work. And that's why I am so grateful for everything you do, because we are just get so much pressure, not only from environmental streamline, and I don't care what political party it is, we're always under pressure. We're under pressure from land use planners, transportation planners, we go under pressure from our state legislature, from Congress. And you out here are the ones who really fight the good fight every day to save your properties, to say your history that makes people feel their history. And really quickly, for Dan Sakura's point, let's just go to Idaho for a minute to Minnetonka. There's supposed to be a wind farm there. When I went to Minnetonka, it was not just the buildings that got made, it was the landscape. And people don't think about that. I was there on a 90-degree day and it felt cold. That landscape is so barren that it is part of the story of that eternity out. It's not just the buildings, not just the fences, it's the landscape around it. People have to live and look at. No offense to Emco. But it is a cold, cold landscape. And when you impact that landscape, you are impacting the story of what happened to the Japanese American community on the West Coast. And that is really important to remember, that what we do is not just buildings, not just archaeology, but also the landscape. So I want to just thank you for all the work that you do. It's not an easy time in historic preservation in Washington State. Please feel free to call me if you have a problem, because that's what we do, is try to solve problems. And every day we wake up and try to save our historic sites, because if we're not doing this together, there's not a lot of other people that are going to do this with us. So I'm going to applaud you for all the work you do. Applaud yourself. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Representative Sharon Tomiko Santos from our state legislature, who has been an incredible partner with me in historic preservation. And it is my partner in realizing that land use and transportation planners need help, so to speak, from us. And so we've been working together to raise the profile of historic buildings. So with that, thank you, Representative Santos, for everything you do for Washington State. You're really amazing, and I'm turning over to you now.
Well, good morning, everyone. And again, let's give another round of applause to Dr. Allyson. She is amazing. I don't know why. I had to wait until I became a legislator. And not only that, I had to wait till I was a mid-career legislator to even realize, the state of Washington has a state archaeologist. Who knew? I didn't know. But not only that, I really want to underscore under what Dr. Wake's talked about, because one of the things that her office has the authority and power to do is to stop mega projects in their tracks, literally, especially when she finds bones that may have belonged to Native Americans from years back. And one of the projects we recently collaborated on was really mapping for this area, the Seattle area, the places of historic and cultural significance to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And the dream that I have is to use that mapping to be able to insert that as a condition in our land use policies, that when we have such an historic or culturally significant site as designated by our state archaeologist, that we take extra precaution and either not build there, preferably, or make sure that we are mitigating. But I'm going far afield. I just think the world of Dr. Allyson Brooks, and I'm so fortunate that I finally realized that our state invests, not enough, I guarantee you, but we invest in having a state archaeologist. I was asked to come here and offer words of welcome, and so I will. It's my pleasure, my deep, deep pleasure, to welcome the Asian and Pacific Islander Americans in historic preservation to Washington State, and more specifically to the Seattle Chinatown International District, in the heart of the legislative district I am privileged to represent. As you heard from Dr. Brooks, my name is Sharon Tomiko Santos, and I do know many of you, whether you are from this state and some of you from out of state, and I think you know me. Some of you might know that I am a state legislator beginning my 27th year in office. And starting next year, I will be the longest serving member of the House of Representatives. And I am proud to say that I am already the longest serving person of color in the state of Washington's history. But I can only do that because of so many people in this audience, not only my constituents who are my voting constituents, but all of you who are my constituents, because we like to do the work that our friend John Lewis called the work of troublemakers. Some of you may also know my husband, Uncle Bob Santos, who coincidentally, today is our 32nd wedding anniversary. So it's like a sign from Bob to me and to all of you that this was supposed to happen on this day. But as those of you who don't know Bob, he was someone who led preservation efforts in this neighborhood, the Seattle Chinatown International District. And there is no doubt in my mind that without his efforts, many of parts in this neighborhood would already be gone. But what you may not know, certainly those of you who are not from this area, and some of you who might even be my constituents, might not know, is that I actually possess both an undergraduate and a graduate degree in history, with academic training both in research as well as in historical preservation. Hence, my natural gravitation towards Dr. Brooks, and my forever regret that I didn't know about her when I first started the legislature. You know, it was an unusual pursuit for someone in my generation. But I was very fortunate in being able to just pursue the things that I loved and had passion around, and those were things that are old and told stories, and Uncle Bob said that's why I married him. But on a serious note, I'm really thrilled that somebody helped me. How do you pronounce this? Is it APIA? No, is it APIAHiP or APIAHiP? APIAHiP? I like that. It's a very hipster name. APIAHiP. I am so thrilled that APIAHiP is centering its 2024 forum here in Seattle and the greater Puget Sound area, and especially here in the Chinatown International District, where serendipitously, we have not yet fully lost the remnants and reminders of our API pioneer forebears who built this neighborhood, this city, and this region, and this state. As a result of that, we have rediscovered some unknown gems in places that just gaps from this building that we currently occupy. You already heard from Dr. Brooks about the Panama Hotel, and these were the actual belongings of forebears from our communities right here in Seattle, who, as Dr. Brooks, I never thought of it like that, but who fully expected to return to their homes here in Seattle. And the fact that they didn't pick up their belongings invites us to question why. What happened to us? We also have the historic and beautiful Woodland Glacier Museum, where under Ron Chu's leadership and Kitagawa's leadership and other executive directors, as well as the families that owned the historic Colonial building, we were able to rediscover some beautiful rooms that were hand painted with tin ceilings, where the families would hold their family meetings, where people who were just coming to the United States could feel welcomed by people who were talking in their own tongues and eating and being nourished by foods that were familiar and important to them. We have recently discovered an extraordinary mural that dated from the heyday of the Flackers Prohibition era at the Louisa Hotel. Nobody knew that that was there, but there was an underground speakeasy. And so you see this fabulous painting welcoming people to the secret fun place. And then we have, and I just really have to stop and say, you know, not everyone is a trained sportsman, but that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You have to have a curiosity. You have to have perhaps a certain, not love for a place, at least a wondering about a place that you're in. I mean, I would argue Bob was an historian, but I could tell you who is an historian. Donnie Chin. Donnie Chin explored every building in the Chinatown International District, and he would find things that people just left behind. Things that other people thought were not important, but he found value in them. He realized that there was a connection between the person who originally owned that thing and why we are all here today, and why we have a neighborhood here today. Some of those things you'll find in the Wingwood Museum. Some of those things that you might find in a little case that's in the NP Hotel. Some of those things you might find elsewhere, whether it's at the Eastern Hotel, maybe it's in Donnie's shop. All of these relics tie us invisibly to, as a community, to those men and women, those brave men and women, who risked everything to come to Bull Mountain or Rice Country or whatever euphemism they assigned to this country in their native tongue, risked everything, whether they intended to remain or not. Just think about it. Most of our forebears didn't intend to remain. It is those kinds of relics that are that bring me to the sense of rootedness of belonging. And that sense of why history is important is that age-old question of why, of who am I? Who am I? The preservation of our historic and culturally significant AA and SHPO places and creation is an affirmative act to hedge against the erasure of who we are through hegemonic and homogeneous gentrification of our neighborhoods and communities. You heard me say that we have not yet fully lost the remnants and reminders of our APIAHiP forebears. Because, as you know, the Seattle Chinatown International District was recently listed on the National Historic Trust list of most endangered places, marking the first time that a location in Washington State, it would be at the end of the state, the first time in Washington that a location in Washington State has been so designated. I would say this is a list of shame. I also say it reminds us that our work is urgent. It is the equivalent of being identified to be placed on the endangered species list. Once we lose our Chinatowns, our little Tokyos, our Maquila towns, our little Saigons, all of our community-based centers. The history and cultural significance of our predecessors is erased and rendered extinct. And so, by extension, our relevance is erased and rendered extinct. And so, ultimately, we as the progeny of the pioneers, you and I, are the living, breathing relics, remnants, and reminders of the hopes and dreams. We are the highest expression of the hopes and dreams of the Asian and Pacific Islander peoples from the past who came to this country and to whatever region of the United States you currently are belonged. And that is why I am so gratified to welcome all of you fellow aficionados of history and historic preservation to this sacred place. Have a wonderful forward.
Now I'd like to bring up the staff of the Wingwood Museum for their welcome as our close partner.
Hi everybody, my name is Diane Bong Di. I'm second generation Vietnamese American. I've been working at the Wingwood Museum for about 12 years now. It was really powerful to listen to your welcome introduction there, Sharon. That's really beautiful. Like what you said about not everyone's a historian, right? I really connect with that. You know, I'm looking out in the crowd. I see my mentor, Connie So. And like, I was just a kid, an undergrad student at the University of Washington, who just wanted to know who I was. So now I'm like standing here in front of you all, and it's just like amazing to be able to be a part of this. So besides me working at the Wingwood Museum as senior tour manager, I was also part of the forum planning committee. Today I'll be helping lead, tomorrow, I'll be leading exclusive forum attendee tours, so I hope to see you out there. It's gonna be super fun. And then I just honestly wanna introduce Rachael Kitagawa, who's on our board of trustees, to give our Archaeology Wingwood Museum welcome to the forum attendees as APIAHiP's host partner this year. Rachael Kitagawa is 5th generation Japanese American. She works as an architect at Hoshide Wanzer Architects. So please, everybody, let's give a warm welcome to Rachael. Good morning, everyone. I am Rachael Kitagawa, and as a part of the Wingwood Museum Board of Trustees, we really want to welcome you all here to the Seattle Chinatown International District and to the APIAHiP's 7th Biennial Forum. We are thrilled to go forward this forum, especially all the sessions after lunch and the sessions tomorrow. I am here as a representative of the Wingwood Board of Trustees, but like Don said, I am a 5th generation Japanese American from Oahu, Hawaii. Being brought up in, with diverse cultures as an architect, I specialize in cultural and community design and historic preservation. You'll see some of my works if you go to in Rhode Island. I worked with Thai Farm and Garden as well and helped with the departure over at the Tomiko program. So I also focus on social sustainability. And in my work, there's a quote I learned back at home that I reflect on quite a bit. It was said by Benevolent that the second way he would praise for his wisdom. And it was, I'm not going to say it in that Hawaiian, that it's, I took it in high school, but I want to make sure it. But he said, who would not be wise on the path that is so long been walked by my ancestors? And what I was taught was this was recognizing the process by which our connections and learnings from our family and community and history becomes wisdom. And so I just want to say that your work holds a special place in our community. You preserve our histories, our stories, you highlight our accomplishments and our aspirations. So I just want to thank you all. You are very important to all our community. Since our establishment in 1967, the Benevolent Museum has been deeply connected to the community and histories and stories of our neighborhoods. In the CID, but also in the greater Seattle area. Named after Chong, he is the first Asian American elected public official at Pacific County West. Our museum has now become nationally recognized for our creating our innovative community-based exhibits and programs. And we serve as a gathering place of neighborhood anger and a collector of APIAHiP histories and stories. In 2008, we moved into our current home in the historic East Community building, where we were able to preserve the apartments, stores, and gathering spaces built by our first pioneers. But our work goes beyond the four walls. We are extremely involved in activating the community as well as an advocate with CIB. An example of this would be our recent purchase of the in-family homestead. For those of you who don't know the in-family homestead, it is one of the last remaining intact single-family home in the neighborhood. In 1937, the Eng family was able to purchase and build their home in the neighborhood despite the discriminatory housing law of the era. So we at the museum are working with the family to rehabilitate this home, become an immersive educational space that will tell their story and extend our campus beyond our four walls. And it will also provide an opportunity to claim our right to placemaking at community. Through this forum and other initiatives, we're so thankful to partner with you all and shine a light on how essential it is to preserve our historic places and cultural resources for the future. These joint historic innovation efforts are essential as we come out of the pandemic and we push back against gentrification and displacement forces that are endangering our neighborhoods. Our shared learning, solidarity, and advocacy efforts ultimately are about protecting our histories, our families, and our community for generations to come. And so I want to thank you all again for attending and joining us. And I am honored to invite up Ron Chu. He's going to give us great history on the CID, and he is a lifelong community advocate. And also former VP of Director. And so welcome, Ron. Thank you so much.
So, I was told that I have 8 to 12 minutes. I'm going to try and take 5, because I was always cautioned as a child, more chatty, like, don't be so long-winded, don't talk so much. Plus, I think really at the heart of your experience here, particularly those of you from out of town, is having an opportunity to one-on-one with folks and to visit places that are very special in a neighborhood. So welcome. Just a couple, perhaps, tips. I'm not going to talk about history of Chinatown. It's too big a piece. But first thing I want to mention is this place, Chong, has a lot of meaning to me because I was here as a child, and back in the day, my father was a waiter at a restaurant called the Hong Kong restaurant. As a waiter there for 30-some years, I kind of view working there as well as raised by people were colonists. My mom worked at a soap factory in the street. But we used to come here as a family to watch Cantonese opera. And so we'd be sitting where all of you are seeing, eating fried chicken wings in a bigger system and jumping the wings the bones on the floor, watching the other waiters in the restaurant dressed up with some big various parts, and wondering whether the intermission was actually going to result in people actually coming back or whether it was over. So a lot of nostalgia in this place, which I think gratefully it still survives. Needs support to continue to survive challenges that all the buildings down here have, which is the deterioration of time. I'm going to say a couple of things that are a little contrarian. I was looking at the welcome statement in the packet, which talks about the area in the only area that can come in the U.S. where Chinese, Japanese, Philippines, African American, so South here built community. As I've done more research, not simply in Seattle, but in other Chinatowns that are like different stages of deterioration, vanishing, rebuilt. Those places also have a multi-ethnic history that has not been fully excavated and brought to the fore. And so while we are very special in that way, the Seattle way, we're not unique. And I think our job is to open our minds to what places once were, what we thought they were, and what they actually were. Because these places are evolving too. I remember Representative Santos referred to this too, and presence a lot of mental groups here, obviously with the incarceration of Japanese Americans, never reversed and what it was before the war, was the construction of Interstate 5. We've lost half in the neighborhood, all those houses, up and down King Street to Jack Street were gone overnight in the late 60s. There used to be a thriving African-American community. Actually, a lot of African-American residences along Webber Street, which I didn't even know about. It was an elderly gentleman said, that when you're African-American, homes all along there. We've heard a little bit, some of you in Seattle, about Jackson Street after hours, the African-American President's Dinner. But I also remember that was intermingled with the remnants of Iwamachi, which now has reemerged as Blue Saigon, which has some challenges. I remember the Italian American used to be part of this neighborhood, the native community. There used to be, yes, the Filipino town, but it's just a smaller town. dishwashers, the old event, the bonhoms I used to talk to, all the Talibanis, referred to it as Manila Town. Never made history books about me, so when we were here, it was called Unforgotten Town. But I say this all to open your minds to exploring the neighborhood and having conversations, which has allowed me to begin to reimagine this place as a place of rebirth. The other thing I look back on is sort of that, I understand why this neighborhood has been designated, the importance of it being designated as one of the most endangered areas. I would argue there's actually some other cities that have pretty endangered ethnic enclaves that we should also support in their efforts to reclaim their identity. But I'm hopeful because I see a younger generation of folks. I've worked with a lot of them at the Winging Museum during that time. They're very, they give me hope. A lot of the younger folks I worked with, I still serve on the board of the International Santa newspaper, which the name of the newspaper started in the mid-1970s, still continuing to this day. And API newspaper with on-street presence, print edition, as well as online and vibrant presses. A lot of those young folks are continue to cover the news and do the work of ensuring that the voices of folks in the neighborhood, that generation, is elevated, and that they're part of preserving and restoring this neighborhood as a voice to the next generation. I think I might get 8 minutes yet from the kids. One last thing I'll mention, I go to a lot of conferences, as I'm sure a lot of you do. Big question is, well, how do I spend my time? Where are all these sessions, which sessions go to, how do I spend that? How do I get to know this place? Attend the sessions that are meaningful to you, but explore the neighborhood and poke around. There are lots of the Alamites here who know the neighborhood. Some of the Weepers, who I've worked with, I think, for a year, took time at the museum to, take them to lunch, take them to tea, take them to dinner, talk to the shop owners, talk to the residents, find out what the history is, because in their lived experience, you would discover so much more beyond the parameters of this conference that's been organized. So welcome to Seattle, and maybe I'll have more conversations with some of you during the course of this 5 days, 6 days, something like that. Thank you.